Trump pumps the brakes on offering his full-throated support. Gee, I wonder if all of RFK's words and actions have anything to do with it. This is just another day. After spending another day not releasing the Epstein files, the Republican-led Senate decided to attend to some other matters, like dragging RFK up to the Capitol to ask him, essentially, what the hell are you doing?
Secretary Kennedy, for the first time, we're seeing deaths from children from measles. We haven't seen that in 2 decades.
Sir, you're a charlatan. That's what you are. You're the ones who conflate chronic disease with the need for vaccines. And so for an administration that claims it is lowering costs, my question to you is, what are you going to do to keep costs down for seniors?
I mean, I'm already doing what I'm already keeping costs down.
In some ways, this is true. 17 million Americans are about to get kicked off of Medicaid, and roughly 7 of those 17 million people are seniors. And with studies showing that these Medicaid cuts could lead to thousands of deaths, technically those are people that won't have to pay anything for health care. Ever since RFK decided to abandon his presidential campaign, join Trump's administration, and take a brief hiatus from working out in a pair of Wranglers and work boots, you know, the way we do, he has stirred up tons of controversy as the head of HHS. He's championed massive firings from his agency, refused to accept data from thousands of doctors and scientists around the globe, and overall brought a level of politicization to our health agencies that this nation has never seen before. And Trump has been behind him 100% until today.
Do you have full confidence in what RFK Jr. is doing?
Well, I didn't get to watch the hearings today, but he's a very good person. And he means very well, and he's got some little different ideas. I guarantee a lot of the people at this table like RFK Jr., and I do. But he's got a different take, and we want to listen to all of those takes. But I heard he did very well today. But it's not your standard. It's not your standard talk.
Yeah, and neither was that. My God, Trump offers more full-throated support for Putin than RFK. Kennedy better start bombing Ukraine soon if he wants to get back on Trump's good side. But surely, Kennedy is up to the task of defending himself, right?
I don't get letters from thousands of people who are not political saying that this set of changes is going to damage American healthcare, and particularly these healthcare agencies, for decades to come. I don't get any letters from people saying, hey, this is going to make a big difference forever.
Maybe you're listening to a selective group of people.
Well, you get me some.
Yeah, and I will.
Fine.
I will tell you what, Senator. I will put my mailbag against your mailbag any day of the week.
Wow. You know things are getting heated between old guys when it turns to a big mailbag competition. We are one step away from bragging about how great you are at eating Werthers. But besides which mail gets more mail, senators also demanded answers on Kennedy's reasoning for firing the head of the CDC just a month after he hired her.
Medicaid will still pay.
Tell the head of the CDC that if she refused to sign off on your changes to the childhood vaccine schedule, that she had to resign.
No, I told her that she had to resign because I asked her, are you a trustworthy person? And she said no.
You know how that's a totally normal exchange between boss and employee in any workplace. Are you a trustworthy person? No, sir, I am not. Oh, and before you leave, just a couple of other totally normal boss-employee questions. If I take a shit in the handicap stall and don't flush, would you be willing to take the blame for me? Yes, of course I would. And does my voice sound relaxing and soothing, or like a gravel rattling through a rusty drain pipe? No comment, sir. By the way, the person who had her trustworthiness questioned by Robert Kennedy was the now former director of the CDC, Susan Monterez, who at the time of her hiring was described by one person as a public health expert with unimpeachable scientific credentials. And the person who said that was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Sounds pretty untrustworthy to me. And another bone senators had to pick with Kennedy was over his endorsement of Trump's Big Beautiful Bill that will make big beautiful cuts to nursing homes, healthcare centers, and rural hospitals all over the country. But just like the science, Kennedy sees the math on this very differently.
It's going to be the biggest infusion of federal dollars into rural health care in American history.
Yeah, you know why? Because you're cutting $150 billion for rural hospitals. You're putting $50 billion back. That's not an infusion. That's a loss of $100 billion.
Well, not only do we have proof that RFK shouldn't run HHS, I don't think he's fit to run a branch of your local bank. By Kennedy's logic, if robbers came in and stole $1,000 but then returned 50, he would say everything is square. But today's hearing was so fiery and raucous that Virginia Senator Mark Warner just wanted to agree on a baseline of facts before even moving forward.
Would you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC.
Totally. The pandemic chaos wasn't about whether or not you contracted COVID. It was about the data. No one was sure how far they needed to stand from the data. If they went out in public, did they have to wear a mask so they didn't get someone else's data? When you brought home your data from the store, did you need to wipe it down before reading it? No one knew. And it's not just me who finds this response just a tad bit troubling.
Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't know how many Americans died from COVID. Doesn't know if the vaccine helped prevent any deaths. And you are sitting as Secretary of Health and Human Services? How can you be that ignorant?
Well, if I may, on the whole, how can you be that ignorant front? It's actually quite easy for him. You see, over the past decade, the current president has made ignorance not just acceptable, but a bit of a virtue. Trump's amplification and endorsement of conspiracy theories and far-right policies like vaccine skepticism, climate change denialism, and the idea that COVID could be cured by the same product that keeps your whites so darn white.
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning?
We were so young and so crippled by terrible leadership. So you see, with a man like that captaining the ignorant express, it really opened the doors for guys like this to fearlessly vocalize their batshit crazy ideas and rise through the ranks to become the head of Health and Human Services. But one of the most surprising things to come out of today's hearing on Capitol Hill was that there was a second party besides the Democrats who have found RFK's leadership a bit troubling.
Secretary Kennedy, in your confirmation hearings, you promised to uphold the highest standards for vaccines. Since then, I've grown deeply concerned.
You were also, as lead attorney for the Children's Health Defense, you engaged in multiple lawsuits attempting to restrict access to the COVID vaccine. Again, it surprises me that you think so highly of Operation Warp Speed when, as an attorney, you attempted to restrict access.
Thank you! Finally, Republicans who recognize the danger of a crackpot like RFK in the position that he holds. I'll bet Cassidy's got some pretty strong feelings about the sycophants and cowards who rammed this guy through his confirmation process and forced him down the throats of the American people.
We need a leader at HHS who will guide President Trump's agenda to make America healthy again. Based on Mr. Kennedy's assurances on vaccines and his platform to positively influence Americans' health, it is my consideration that he will get this done.
Boy, don't you have egg and a petri dish of infectious diseases all over your face. After today's hearing, or more aptly, haranguing, one thing is abundantly clear. RFK Jr. has achieved what so many before him could not, receiving public criticism from the Republican Party. Do you understand how hard that is for someone who has an R next to his name? What an unfathomable accomplishment we've just witnessed. This is Sir Edmund Hillary climbing Mount Everest, or Matthew Webb swimming the English Channel, or Lauren Boebert watching Beetlejuice the musical and not jerking off her seatmate. Since Trump was reelected, the entire Republican Party has had zero issues collectively rallying behind an administration that employs a former reality star turned transportation secretary who can't seem to keep planes in the sky, a binge-drinking broadcaster accused of sexual assault who, in his time as Secretary of Defense, turns out to have a proclivity for laying out America's war plans on the family group chat, and, let's not forget, an entire executive branch, DOJ, and FBI that seems to be more than comfortable covering for a billionaire pedophile and his sex trafficking girlfriend. All of these issues have been met with nothing more than a collective shoulder shrug from the GOP, but this guy is a bridge too far. And look, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I too think taking vaccines away from children, downplaying a global pandemic, and diagnosing kids with autism simply by running into them at baggage claim is troubling. But it really just shows how far off the reservation Robert F. Kennedy is. Look, I actually didn't want to disclose this, but to be honest, I had a personal conversation with RFK Jr., and I asked him if he was a trustworthy person, and he said no. And frankly, that's all the proof I need. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.